Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our South by Southwest Education panel. My name is Keri Rodrigues, and I'm the president of the National Parents Union. Who is the National Parents Union? I've never heard of that. Well, we're an exciting new organization that is comprised of about 500 organizations that are filled with activists, advocates, and agitators all over all 50 states, DC and Puerto Rico, coming together to connect parents with great ideas. We reach about 15 million families every single month and growing, especially during a time where parents are really seeking information and knowledge. Education is really in our hands during the pandemic, and so many parents and families and communities have stepped up to the plate. So what we're going to be doing today is talking about some of those innovations. As we know, most K through 12 schools have existed in their communities for decades. And the community kind of conforms around the school. But what if we kind of flip that around? What if instead schools were responding to what the community needs? Today, we're going to be hearing from some education entrepreneurs who have opened innovative school options outside of our traditional K through 12 system that have been shaped by our community, that show that an inclusive and equitable approach can drive better outcomes for students, families, and communities at large. The National Parents Union has actually been a part of this project with the Vela Education Fund, where we have been able to go out through our connections to all of those different organizations, all of those different families, and ask them for their best ideas. And through our program and some of our partners' programs, we've been able to pass along funding right through that pipeline to make sure that all of these ideas that have been percolating from folks actually doing the work in the communities are brought to life. It's been extraordinary. It's been an incredible journey, and it's my great honor to introduce you to some of these incredible innovators today. So first off, I want to introduce you to Khabral Muhammad. He's with the Zucchinis Homeschool Co-op. Good morning. Hello, Khabral. So glad that you are here with us.
Good morning.
Today. Why don't you introduce yourself and to the family here?
My name is Khabral Muhammad. I am the lead instructor at the Life School where I teach science, and I am a co-founder of the Zucchinis Homeschool Co-op.
Wonderful. We're so excited that you're with us today. And we also have Toni Frallicciardi. See, I knew I was going to mess it up, Toni. Toni Frallicciardi. Say it again. See, I practiced it. I can't even do it. Toni, set me straight. How do we say it? And you are from an extraordinary program teaching kids surfing, skating, science, all of these combined. Introduce yourself.
Hi, yeah, my name is Toni Frallicciardi, and I'm from South Florida, and we run a program called Surf Skate Science, and we teach science through action sports.
Well, as a mama of 5 little boys, that sounds right up our alley, getting them moving their body. So I'm really excited that you guys are both with us today to share really what your programs are all about, to maybe spark some imagination for other folks that maybe have some ideas in the back of their head, but weren't really sure whether or not they could bring them to life. Now is the time. So, I want to start with you, Khabral, and talk about your origin story and how this came to be. You are an educator, you work with kids in the classroom, but there's always kind of been a formula on how we do this. And there's always been kind of a system about how this gets done. I have to imagine that once you get into that system, you start saying, well, not all pieces of this work. Tell us about how you started and how this took off.
So first of all, yes, I am an educator, but I'm also a parent. And that's really where my lens is. And when the pandemic hit, we were like so taken off guard because I have a 4-year-old, I have a 16-year-old who can manage in almost any situation, but I have a 4-year-old, and 4-year-olds do not sit still. They won't sit in front of a computer. And for some of them, workbooks are really not the answer. So it's like this, oh my God moment, what are we gonna do with this little bundle of energy that we have bouncing off the walls in our house? And I discovered through conversations with other parents, Miss Michaela and I went out and had conversations with other parents. They even came to us in many cases just to really field some concerns. They're like, what are we going to do? We have the same problem at home. Some of them even had multiple children in this age group, 4-year-old to 10-year-old kind of thing. and they're just kind of losing it. And it's like, we need a solution. We need a solution to that's going to allow them to not have disrupted in education because of the pandemic. It's something that's not the kids' fault. It's something that's not the parents' fault. It's not any individual's uh, fault. So how do we fix it? How do we come together to fix it? So we sat and we looked at what was going on around in our community. We noticed that some people in the more affluent sides of our area were putting together learning pods where they were able to hire a teacher to come and work with their kids so they could still get that personal interaction, but do it in a safe way as well with a very limited population. So we wanted kind of a similar access. We wanted the ability to do the same thing for our kids so that they can have healthy social interaction, a lot of play, a lot of discovery, a lot of exploration without necessarily putting themselves at any unnecessary risk, or their families, because some of them have family members with compromised immune systems and things like that. So we decided to homeschool our children together, hence the name of the homeschool co-op. And while we were planning it, actually, we were buying food for a planning meeting, and we were in the produce section, and we just looked over and we saw all these tiny little zucchinis all just like stacked and piled up in this neat little row. And Miss Michaela was like, "Oh, look at these, they're so cute, they're adorable." And so we actually ended up using that as an inspiration for creating this identity for our young people where they could be safe and they can have fun through play, exploration, and personalized education.
And Toni, that
Mhm.
makes me want to pivot to you, because you too are a mama of some an interesting and wonderful and vibrant family, and you were already seeing some problems, you know, in the system and how your kids were being served well before the pandemic. So why don't we start there? Tell us, you know, the origins of your idea.
Well, first of all, I guess I'll go back to my background. I went to school for ocean engineering and was involved in marine biology a little bit. And then life just happened, and my husband and I ended up running a skate park at a local church/private school for about 15 years. And as part of that, because I love education, I love learning, we incorporated the skate park with a lot of what they did at the school. So I had a mentor there that was all about learning through multiple intelligences, that you should hear it, taste it, see it, smell it, and that's how kids learn. And so that was kind of embedded in me. But, you know, fast forward a few years, just different life circumstances. We had some health problems in the family, and we ended up homeschooling our kids. And then our family was really impacted by the tragedy at Stoneman Douglas. And a lot of other families started in our community homeschooling just because of all that. And so we had a preteen at the time who was still active, like you're saying, your little ones are. He's a skateboarder. And so we decided to partner with our local surf shop and do science at the beach or science at the skate park, and invited some families to come. And more so, you know, also to make learning fun and give them a hands-on way to engage in science and STEAM activities, but also to get them, you know, surfing and skating together, because at the time, after the incident at Stoneman Douglas, we didn't want the kids isolating themselves. And I think the parents also needed to be with each other. So that's kind of how we started. And then fast forward to today, and living in a pandemic, it just continued to grow, and more families began homeschooling. And it's just been a fun way to learn and explore different STEAM areas with the kids.
You know what's been so fascinating in this moment, and Toni, I'd love to hear about your experience with this. You know, for a long time, the word homeschool and people who homeschooled, there was just such a negative connotation. Like, are you a weirdo? Like, why are you homeschooling? And what don't you like other people? Like, there's really this mindset that like homeschool is bad. Homeschool is for people who think they're better or don't trust the system or are living in a shack somewhere. Like it was all of these misconceptions. And we actually saw that when we reached out and we said, hey, as the National Parents Union, we're going to provide grants and you can come up with whatever idea. We actually heard in some of the applications, like, well, I used to be the crazy homeschool mama and now I'm the mama everybody's calling. Please come help me try to figure this out. Did you have that experience where people like before who are a little skeptical about some of your ideas, now all of a sudden we're like, girl, can you please help me? I got to figure this out. And I know you know how to do this.
Yeah, what's funny is my kids started off in a private school. It was a great school. They enjoyed it. And I think I was one of those moms that thought homeschooling was weird. And everybody kept telling us for what our family does, we travel a lot, that we should be homeschooling. And it was, through a set of events with our family that it just was the best decision. And I now have 2 in college. I always, as a homeschool parent, you're always concerned, am I giving them the best education? Am I qualified enough to do this?
Yeah, hold on a second. Wait, you homeschooled and your babies went to college? I didn't even think that was a thing.
Full scholarships to college too.
Oh, I'm trying to get scholarships. This is like really piquing my interest and my imagination about what my kids might be able to achieve through this. But then my next question for both of you, is about this connection to community. You both mentioned it about serving your communities, about recognizing a need, and about being able to create something that was responsive to what you were feeling in your own community, in your own family, and kind of helping that to blossom so that it was a collective effort. So, I guess that my first question, I'm going to go back to Khabral and say, again, one of the most important things I heard you say was that we heard our community. We saw a need in our community. We were responsive to it. And so often in education, I guess we as parents and families and community, we feel like, the system is just imposed upon us. It's like medicine you've got to be forced to take. Don't ask any questions. Don't push back. Don't tell us what you think you need. Don't even tell us about your symptoms. This is what you're going to do and that's it. This is a very unique moment where we are now taking some of the power and the control and some of the responsibility as well in this moment. Can you talk about that and what that's been like and how that's been able to add just a different layer to what you're able to offer now?
Absolutely. I think the conversation shifted for us away from what we could do for our community to what we could do with our community in partnership and in synergy. And it's really an amazing experience being able to reach out and have conversations where people can share vision, share resources, share skill sets, and offer that to our children, because we really have a common goal. I think all parents, regardless of demographic, want our children to thrive and do well. And that's pretty basic. That's around, that's all over the world. And here in Atlanta in particular, we have a huge and amazing school district, right? A public school district, the APS school district. And I have tremendous respect for all of the teachers and staff and faculty, and even the students who work in the APS system. But they have 52,000 students that they have to deal with on a daily basis, right? How can you create personalized education? One of the things that we know about parents, and you guys kind of touched on it really with the homeschool conversation, is that we know how our children learn, right? We know how our children learn, and that basic foundation and building off of that is really what allows us to customize and personalize each educational experience. So we leverage, of course, working with the community, people bring a variety of skill sets and resources. So we have to leverage those relationships to create this very rich and dynamic learning experience. So we have, the Atlanta Botanical Gardens coming and doing presentations on amphibians, and the kids get to see tadpoles and stuff. They don't actually get to, physically touch them this time. But as the pandemic changes, they'll be able to experience that life cycle even closer. We have parents who come in and teach yoga. We have parents who come in and do nutrition. We have community members who come and teach art, things like that, coding and robotics. It's pretty amazing, and we've been able to to kind of rely on this commitment in order to help keep the program accessible and affordable, because that was one of the things that was prohibitively expensive in a learning pod in Buckhead, per se, like a different area in Atlanta. Well, but we're in the heart, we're in downtown. And, in fact, we're right across the street from the APS headquarters. And they recently had a protest there where they're, if you support our teachers, honk the horn and stuff like that, because the teachers are being put in these positions where they have to work in unsafe conditions, from some other mandate that's handed down to them. And here in Atlanta, where parents have to choose between keeping their child safe and giving them an education, and teachers have to choose between doing what they're passionate about, which is educating, and keeping themselves and their family safe. Like, it's an unfair situation all the way around. And we've had to be very creative on how we address it. And it's just really, it's been innovative. It's been amazing. We've been addressing the situation, especially for parents and families like mine, who want a place for our kids to be safe, by making sure that we have like lots of PPE, and super diligent on our cleaning regimens and fighting COVID, and also keeping these kids' identity safe, their cultural identity, their personality safe. They're free to be who they are. They're free to come and have their differences actually be celebrated, as opposed to being looked at as something that needed to be overcome. Right. So here we have students who have a variety of family backgrounds or ethnic backgrounds, or speak different languages, students who have international connections, familial connections, and different religions and dietary needs, and just being able to turn those into positive aspects that they can realize are actually almost like superpowers. So they really get to celebrate one another that way.
As a mom, like, that is one of the most important things to me, is that they get to be fully who they are, and they're not transformed into something else because they're taught that who they are intrinsically, culturally, is bad, or they have to whitewash themselves into something else, because they don't fit the norm that the system expects. And that has given us a really unique moment. And Toni, I want to open this up to you too, because when you were mentioning the responsiveness, that protective nature that parents and families and the community has about our children, mentioning, what happened at Stoneman Douglas, and parents just not having complete trust in the system anymore. Are you fundamentally able to keep our kids safe? So often, even without school shooting, parents like me, parents like Khabral, we have to make those decisions every day, because school is not always safe for babies like ours. And so, in your community, you had to deal with that directly, and parents had to go through a lot of decision making, like whether or not I want my kid to go back into that situation, if the trauma of what had happened just in that moment was enough to just disrupt all of that, and then having to create something that was responsive so that our kids can still learn, but do it in a way that families and community felt respected and comfortable with, because fundamentally these are our babies, right? And we get to make some decisions about whether or not we want to entrust them with the system. Can you talk a little bit about that piece for you?
Yeah, and I think something like Stoneman Douglas also brings your community together in a unique way. But it also was a great preparation for what's going on. And it let people rethink education in four walls. And I think that it gave us a chance. As a child, you naturally have an imagination. You naturally like to create. You naturally like to invent. But we put a child in four walls where a lot of times they have to fit into a mold, instead of celebrating, like Khabral said, their differences and their uniqueness. And that's what makes people great. And so I think that it was a hard time. It brought our community closer together, but it also allowed families to just rethink how they're teaching and what they're doing and what's best for them as a family, what's best for their child in education, what's the best way that they might learn. And And so skateboarding naturally for us it's a community. It naturally celebrates differences and uniqueness, and it brings a lot of different people together. So for us, it just was a good fit. It's something fun. It's very practical and hands-on. You can teach kids physics through a skateboard. Um, so for us, it was a great way to get kids outside, to get families outside, to have them support one another, be there for one another, but also learn in a really tangible way. And so yeah, I mean, we couldn't have done what we've done the last couple of years without community partners. We worked with practically no budget. We thankfully have some great universities around us, and sea turtle organizations, and different architects and builders, and a lot of different companies that came around us just to help. And I think that was also a result of us as a community having to grow closer together and support one another.
Well, this has been wonderful. And we've been talking about the positivity, the love and light, the creativity, what you guys have been able to create. But we also have to get down to the reality of the situation. During the pandemic, we have had a unique moment where parents had to step up to the plate. There were willing partners saying, especially in many of our school districts, saying, well, we're not really sure what to do, so why don't you try that idea? There was a lot of openness to like parents and community doing some problem solving. But unfortunately, education is very political, and we know this. And it would be very easy as we start to look towards education recovery, something that I am demanding, and I think parents across the nation are demanding, because we see it in the National Parents Union affiliates all over the country. We want an equity-infused educational recovery. We want to take what we've learned in these moments that work well for our kids and hold on to them. And the stuff that was never working in the first place, we want to get rid of. And the data shows it. The National Parents Union, we have been doing polling month after month after month, because we are stepping into our power and saying, you know what, we're actually going to quantify what parents want and what parents need. And what they're telling us over and over and over again, more than 70% of parents say that they're worried that their kids are going to have long-term effects from the pandemic, but by a 2-to-1 margin. Parents and families across the country do not want their kids to go back to the status quo. They want to learn from this. We want to grow. We want to evolve. We want to innovate. And they want this to be a new day for education. So if you're like me, and I think you are, we all believe that talent is equitably distributed, but opportunity and resources are not. And both of you have said, and I see you both shaking your heads when we talk about resources for programs like yours being available. This stuff takes money. It takes time, treasure, talent, all of those things. And right now, parents and families across the country, they have your back. They want more of this. They want more innovation. They want culturally responsive curriculum and programming and outside the box ideas. They want their babies learning on a skateboard by the sea, if that's what's getting it done, and getting these ideas and opening up their brains. So we're going to spend the last few minutes talking about what you guys need in the future and what more people need, because you guys are beautiful examples, but I bet you could probably rattle off 10 other people who are doing some really innovative stuff too that should also be given the room. So Khabral, open it up. If you're moving forward, how do you take this to the next level? How do we hold on to these ideas and keep it moving into the future? Oop, you're on mute there.
First, let me just say how excited I am to be able to meet the Surf Skate Science program. I've been bragging about your program to our students. They're so excited. They're looking forward to being able to actually come down and participate at some point. So we're definitely working on that. But I would also add to that this is actually, you know, for communities of color, we have historically had to actually rely on homeschooling our students, homeschooling our children, as public schools either denied access or denied resources or things like that. It's been imperative, and it's kind of woven into American history, from the church schoolhouse to, you know, someone learning on the top of a hill, sitting under a tree. All of these things are actually kind of built in to our community fabric here. So we have this determination to actually do for ourselves. And you're absolutely right. Parents do not want to go backwards, especially to a system where only about 1/3 of the students are performing at proficient level or above. That's not really the answer. And I'm not saying that we have the whole answer, the 100% answer, but different students require different solutions. And when we're looking at resources and things like that, absolutely. Myself and my co-founder, Miss Michaela, we don't take any salary for what we do. We volunteer our time. Most of our teachers volunteer. So we created this program really out of dedication and passion and love, but also, you know, you can't eat that. So, you know, you absolutely have to, you know, we have to figure out how to get more community support so that we can keep the lights on, so that we can spread out and buy more materials and buy more supplies and snacks and things like that, so that our program can continue into the future. We absolutely think that it's necessary. And right now, there's a lot of excitement and a lot of passion, you're right, about continuing education with this new look around it that's really empowering parents. And the government needs to support that. I was reading about President Trump's executive order that is going to allow states to repurpose school funding toward things like private education institutions, learning pods, things like that. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. And I'm really working with Miss Michaela and our community in general to really position ourselves to be in the spot where we can actually benefit from it and provide for our children in a meaningful way. So this is an exciting time. This is a very exciting time, and I'm looking forward to it. There's been a lot of obstacles, especially around you know, like making sure the rent is paid, and there's been a lot of coming out of our own pockets and things like that. Which you know, any entrepreneur can tell you that's pretty much the foundation. That's the beginning of how a lot of programs start. So I'm excited about the growth. I'm excited about the general attitude that education can actually evolve and start to keep up with the times.
Khabral,
Finally.
definitely identify with you on that one. Trying to make sure that you have the necessary resources so you can work, you can concentrate on the work instead of on payroll. That is a thing.
Right.
That is an important thing. And that's why we need to make sure we get you the resources you need so that your ideas can grow and blossom. Toni, you too. I mean, we only have a minute left, but I want to give you some space. Like, you got folks banging down your door now saying, oh my God, please, can you take my baby? And you can only expand as fast as you have resources and the capacity to do it. So how do we take this great idea and have it blossom in the future?
It's just a lot, very similar to Khabral. I mean, my husband and I both work full time on top of doing our program, and we pretty much do this as volunteers. So yeah, the funding is very important, and just having more parents that want to get involved and want to be part of it, volunteering, educating, and things like that would be fabulous. We have parents that work at the local university in the architecture department willing to let us come in and work with the architecture students, and just partnerships like that really just engage kids and allow them to explore different careers and to just imagine and dream through their passions and what they want to do when they get older. And I think that's going to make a huge difference. So just, you know, having that support of the community around us is a huge thing.
Toni Frallicciardi.
Frallicciardi.
I'm getting closer every time I say it. From Surf Skate Science, and Khabral Muhammad coming to us from Zucchinis Homeschool Co-op. Give our love to Miss Michaela as well. We're
Definitely.
so glad that we were able to have this conversation today. And the one thing I can say on behalf of parents and families across the nation is that we have your back. We want more of this. We want more of this innovation. We want more of these ideas. We love the fact that you guys are authentically led by parents, by families, by the needs of the community. So more, please keep working. We know it's hard. We know it's a lot of work. It's a lot of effort, and it's a lot of investment from your families and from your hearts. But we are grateful across the nation, and we're so glad that you are doing this work with us. And we want to thank all of you for joining us on our panel today at South by Southwest Education. Again, my name is Keri Rodrigues. I am the president of the National Parents Union. You can check us out by going to nationalparentsunion.org. And I hope you'll leave some messages for us in the comments. Thanks for joining us.